Welcome everyone and thanks for joining us. My name is Sima and I'll be your host today. I'm here with Ray Reyes from TLG Technologies, developers of TradeSmart. Ray, glad to have you here.
Glad to be here. Thank you for putting this together. Looking forward to it.
So before we begin, here are a few housekeeping rules. We will be together for around 20 minutes. After our presentation, we will take your questions, so feel free to write them down. The webinar is being recorded and all the registrants will receive the recording by email. So let's dive in. Today with Ray, we will share 5 of the biggest pain points in commodity trading and show how we help you cut the costs and keep the margins. Ray, shall we start with a quick introduction?
Sure, thanks. My name is Ray Reyes. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and partner in TLG Global Technologies. We are the developer of TradeSmart, which is a blockchain-based platform that streamlines global commodity transactions by automating payments, compliance, and documentation through smart contracts. It provides instant settlement, end-to-end transparency, and allows some built-in regulatory issues and safeguards for both buyers and sellers, as well as intermediaries. So whether you're a trader or a broker or part of the back office team, this isn't just about disruption of the system. It's about making your system faster, safer, and easier to manage and more reliable for everyone.
Thank you, Ray. I'll also give a quick introduction of myself. So I work at PaperTrader as a strategic partnership manager. My focus is on making sure the right tools like this new integration with TradeSmart are in place to help our brokers and traders move faster, work smarter, and grow with confidence. We will start with explaining a little bit more how the integration between PaperTrader and TradeSmart works. First of all, we partner because we saw the same problem from 2 angles. So PaperTrader helps brokers and traders connect, negotiate, and close deals. But even after the deal is done, things can still fall apart, and that's where TradeSmart steps in. We're talking here about automating settlements, about compliance and trust, and our goal is that your deal flows through without friction. And how does it work concretely? Well, it's easy. First, you need to create your account on TradeSmart, and then you connect it with PT. It's in one click. It's super simple. Then, when you have an order placed on PT, you will see the button like shown on the screen that will enable you to settle in one click. So this is a very simple action that will enable you to save costs and a lot of time. But let's talk about why this matters. The activation is simple, and yes, it saves you time and money, but the problems it solves are anything but simple. Let's start with the biggest of all the pain points, which is the settlement delays and uncertainties. Everyone in this room has had the moment where they deliver and then wait and then wait. Why is this still happening in 2025, Ray?
Well, unfortunately, we're stuck at some antiquated payment solutions still with banking and intermediary banks and over scrutinization from third parties, right? So the traders and buyers and sellers, they buy the goods, they deliver the goods, but payments get stuck in this lost space of banking bureaucracy, right? So they're very slow manual processes, whether they're funding escrows or letters of credit, and then there's some scrutinization and compliance issues, and this becomes a very unpredictable process. Right? What our solution does, it allows us to provide a solution that is almost automated, quick, so in a matter of days or even weeks, your settlements can be in minutes. This is a big difference. But also understanding that there's no delays when it comes to compliance issues or regulatory issues, because all those requirements are previously uploaded into the smart contract itself. So it streamlines the process, and there's no more concern about settlement delays or uncertainty when you're going to get paid or when the payments are going to be released. So basically, it eliminates all the bureaucracy within the banking and the regulatory bodies and third-party intermediaries that really don't have any jurisdiction or governance in the transaction itself between the buyer and the seller. So our system alleviates all the red tape and bureaucracy.
So faster settlements, fewer calls, and less risk on the back end. Now, even when payments do go through, there's still a huge issue behind the scenes, the admin chaos. So let's talk about the second pain point, all the emails, the PDFs, and the manual processes, basically. So this is where a lot of time gets wasted, of course. Could you tell us a little bit more about how does TradeSmart help eliminate that, Ray?
Sure. The system is on the blockchain, right? And within the smart contract, all those requirements are uploaded into one place. So you're not searching through emails, text messages, or whatever third-party communications that you may use, right? Everything is centralized. So you have your T's and C's in the contract. You have all the requirements from buyers and sellers involved, right? You have all the payment terms. They're all in one place. All the documentation around the transaction is centered now in one centralized location. There's no more chasing and looking, making sure you have all the right information, whether it's for scrutinization, regulatory KYC, or anti-money laundering requirements. All that is now centralized in one location, right? So all data and terms, delivery, and payments are synced and tracked in one centralized location through TradeSmart. And we have that our payment processing on the back end. So now you have all your documentation. You can fund the smart contract. The products are delivered. You can release payment, and now the seller gets payment almost instantaneously. It's not completely automated, but we're talking about a few clicks later, and funds are automatically released, and you're no more looking for payment terms, credit requirements, LOC docs, all those things that come in the traditional world of cross-border banking. So we eliminate all the manual process and chasing paperwork.
Yeah, that's a big deal for the brokers. All that paperwork wouldn't be so painful if the traders had full trust in their counterparties, right? But that's often not the case, especially when you're working with someone new. And that brings us to the third pain point, which is the trust and counterparty risk. A lot of trades fall apart because no one really knows who is on the other side. How does TradeSmart solve that without slowing things down?
Right. So let's go back to the previous pain point. We talk about chasing down paperwork, all the KYC, all the AML requirements, right? By having a trustless environment within TradeSmart, kind of eliminate the need for extra verification and extra documentation, because now there's no longer a need to know or trust each other. Here's what happens. A buyer can now say, I want to buy 1,000,000 tons or $1 million worth of whatever the commodity is. They agree on the T's and C's and pricing. Now the buyer will pre-fund the escrow account. There's a digital escrow, it's right there. So now the seller can see that the funds are there. The seller can't get the funds until they're released. Now the buyer can't retract those funds without going through a process, right? And explaining why they're doing that. So now it eliminates the need for trusting. So the buyer can trust the product will be delivered. He will do his own due diligence and confirmation that it is what he ordered. And on the seller, now the seller can see that the funds are there. He doesn't have to worry about who this person is. Well, if the seller is somewhere in East Asia and the buyer is somewhere maybe in Europe or North America, they don't have to know or trust each other because the buyer has pre-funded the contract. The seller can see that, so he has trust that his money's there. Now the buyer doesn't have to release those funds until there's confirmation that the products are delivered as described. So everyone is happy with each other without having all this extra documentation of knowing who each other is, right? If I'm a trader or a seller in Southeast Asia, I would be very concerned about knowing who my counterparty is in another continent. We've never done business together, so now I have to go through all this rigorous steps and identifying who they are, identifying their financial wherewithal, understanding credit risk. All that is eliminated. The escrow is pre-funded. The seller can see the funds. The buyer can verify the products are delivered as purchased. Everyone is happy and no need to have extensive trust.
Exactly. So yeah, this enables the brokers to bring a new counterparty to the table. They get a proof and not just hope. And the trust isn't just personal. You already mentioned it, Ray. We were talking about the compliance requirements like the KYC, the AML, and the ESG. And the burden of documentation can be just as heavy as the trade itself. So how can we lighten that burden, that load a little bit?
Sure. In today's world, there's a very manual KYC and documentation for AML and ESG, right? You have to provide all this documentation and all that. So what happens in our world, right? All the compliance rules are built into our system, right? All those checks run automatically like this. So when you set up the account, you go through your wallet. In this case, we use MetaMask. There'll be some questions and verification documents requested in the very beginning to set up that account. Once that account has been set up and verified, that's all there is. There's no more documentation. There's no more over scrutiny of trying to identify who you are. You've done that in the onset of the transaction to set up your account. So once your account is set up, now the transaction can flow as needed. And in some cases, you have to do that for each different trade or different buyers and sellers, that they maintain the same buyer and seller. That KYC and AML documentation has already been set up into the system. So you don't have to go through and look for all your documentation and trying to prove that you're a good guy. This is all automated within our system. You've uploaded that documentation. You've been verified, you've been approved, and once that's done, it's over. You can now focus on the transaction itself and no longer have a need for all the over compliance issues and the huge documentation burden. Sometimes in today's transactions, it can take weeks, right? Which delays that process even more. Third-party banks or intermediary banks and corresponding banks are notorious for wanting to have over scrutiny. They may not agree with the type of transaction or type of products, or they may not fit into their profile of customer. So they're going to require more documentations so they can have a little CYA on their part. Our system eliminates all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So even when everything is in place, so the trust, the documents, there's still one more challenge that eats into every deal, and that is the hidden costs. So let's talk about a little bit more about the intermediary frictions. What's the fix here, Ray?
Yeah, sure. So in today's world, banks make money on charging fees for everything. In this environment, the transaction fees are around escrow or letters of credit or transfer fees or FX exchanges. And all those have fees tied to them. In a lot of cases, those fees can accumulate to around 3.5% overall cost of the transaction, right? In our solution, you're looking at 50 basis points or a half of 1% total transaction costs, right? And that's the transfer of funds, that's the escrow, that's the documentation, that's the processing of the payments, right? So you can unload and offload that into your currency with different solutions, but the transaction itself that we provide is at 50 basis points. And so when you're dealing with micro margins or tight spreads anyway, that 3.5% comes directly out of the seller's pocket. That's real money. So they need to make sure they want to keep that extra 3% for themselves and increase their margin, increase their bottom line. So our solution is faster, safer, and much less expensive than traditional transactions within banks. In the TradeSmart world, we always say, oh, we can save you a lot of money, but time is also money. So when we eliminate the need to chase down documentation, when we sped up the payment and transaction time, and then reduce costs, you can quantify it into a large savings overall, not just in the margin loss from excessive fee. In today's world, dealing with banks who can over scrutinize, overcharge, delay your transactions, that eats into your bottom line. In our world, we're trying to increase your bottom line, help you make money, and help you make money faster.
Yeah, Ray, this was solid. 5 pain points and 5 real fixes. Thanks for walking us through it. We have come to the end of our presentation. Now it's time to get your questions. There's one question that we usually get. Let's say I'm a broker and I am wondering if I still have a role in this kind of system.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the broker is the glue that holds this whole transaction together in your world, right? So the broker's role actually increases, and they're more important. They're no longer involved in working with both sides on doing paper chasing and getting documentation and trying to make sure everything is in order to keep that deal together, right? Now they can focus on what they do best. That's the relationships. So now they can focus on the relationship from buyer and seller. They can focus on making sure that the product is as delivered, the payments are already there, so you don't have to worry about funding. You don't have to worry about documentation. Now the broker does what brokers do best, and that is to sustain relationships, increase the relationship in a way that they can continue doing business, make sure everything has been streamlined. So for in the broker's world, TradeSmart actually is a huge benefit. It saves them time. It also will save them money because they can make more money because there's going to be less transaction fees involved. But the big part is the amount of time it saves these guys. They're not going to have to chase documentation. They're not going to have to worry about KYC, AML, escrow fees, and all that. We do all that for them, and they can maintain and do what they do best, and that's relationship development.
Yeah. So it's definitely not a threat for the brokers. It's actually a support for them. Another question.
How do we make sure that documentation uploaded to the system are legitimate? Right. So the third-party tools that we use, that's what they do. That's how they do. Right. They do documentation verification, compliance verification. They're internationally known in international courts within the financial world. So the documentations have to meet their scrutiny, right? If they see any red flags, they may ask for verification, but anything that is accepted into the system is completely verified.
And one last question. What if there's a disagreement after money has been set aside in the smart contract?
Right. There is a process for review. They'll go in to verify whatever the claims are, whether the product doesn't meet the specifications or there's quality issues that are there. So there would be a third-party review that's outside of our scope. So we're not that party itself who would go through that process to analyze the documentation, analyze the compliance issues, or excuse me, the quality issues that the buyer may have. And all that is settled through them.
Wow. Thank you so much, Ray, for your time, for all the answers. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us.
In relation to those questions that were asked, if you have my email and you can see it on there, if you reach out to me, I'd be happy to take a deeper dive into your questions to help you better understand and give you a comfort level you need on the answer. And so just reach out to me, send me an email, we'll set up a time and we'll discuss them.
Perfect. Thanks a lot, Ray. Thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Seema, for putting this together. Thank you, everybody, Paper Trader.
We wish you all a very nice rest of your day and hope to see you again.